Well, I thought that Epic Music was an appropriate way to introduce the Pure Bass 500 from Be Quiet, my favorite enclosure from them yet. I feel like it puts them on the radar for people who are looking for cases in this price category and the size. It's not too large, it's not trying to do too many things and all the things at once. And I think they did a pretty good job. So price-wise, you're looking at $70 for the black model and $75 for the metallic gray and white models, and plus $10 premium for the window edition. As for the US pricing, you had a $5 premium on all the models, which is not terrible, but it's slightly chipping away the whole value argument. And I'm guessing all case manufacturers are facing this cost or the price increase for the US market, unless you're Fantex. For some reason, they don't have US and global pricing. They are absorbing the extra expenses, I'm guessing, to stay extra competitive.
Looking for a solid board to pair your 9th-gen CPU? The ASRock Z390 Taichi gets it right with robust VRM designs for extreme overclocking, a 12-phase power design for smooth power delivery, dual-band Wi-Fi, 3 M.2 slots, and reinforced PCI connectors. Learn more about it down below.
Alright, so before we get into noise, temperatures, and assembly procedure, let me tell you about this beautiful new color, metallic gray. I really appreciate Be Quiet's departure from their traditional black and orange color scheme. Surprised that there's no orange accents anywhere on the Pure Bass 500 series at all. We have our traditional black and white models, but metallic gray looks absolutely gorgeous. It's the darker gray, it's not the light aluminum gray. I love that it almost reveals a hints of green or hints of orange depending on the angle. It's awesome. The metallic gray is both on the outside and the inside, and I appreciate that it is dark enough to not really pop your hardware, but it complements the black hardware nicely. The front panel is plastic with that brush texture, which is awesome for this price point. Also looks very premium without leaving all the fingerprints. I appreciate the rounded corners, both on the top and the bottom of this front panel. It's a little bit less conventional from Be Quiet's design, but it's like an evolution of the Pure Bass series, and it feels like a Pure Bass enclosure, but also feels fresh. I also appreciate the same metallic gray color scheme for the dark out perimeter on the glass, so it hides whatever frame is underneath, and it's not black, it's actually metallic gray to match the whole color scheme. As for the front I/O, it's pretty basic with dual USB 3s, a power button, no reset button here, and your audio jacks. Unfortunately, no Type-C here, and the only case in this price category that actually has a Type-C port is the NZXT H510, but it also only has a single USB 3 port. Behind the front panel, you can install dual 140mm fans or triple 120s with their respective radiator sizes, and of course, this being a 2019 enclosure, you can remove the hard drive completely to give you all that space for push-pull configurations and thick radiators if you wish to do so, or you can mount the hard drive in a second position slightly further away from the front to give you a little extra clearance for a radiator. And given how the frame is designed, the fan can be installed on either side of the fan mount. As for dust filtration, we have these side plates on the front panel and this massive dust filter that you can remove from the front. Initially, I was wondering why is the dust filter that large, spanning the entire bottom of the case, but if you remove the hard drive cage, there are some exposed cutouts, and this way the filter covers them. As for the top panel, I really love this ventilation pattern design. I was kind of hoping we would see something similar for the front panel, for the sides especially, to kind of keep the whole ventilation pattern consistent, because we find this ventilation pattern on the power supply shroud as well. But here we have this top magnetic cover that you can either remove or flip around, and it does have a little bit of ventilation holes that perfectly match to the ventilation pattern underneath it, so that's nice. I think the main purpose of this panel is to contain the noise, and actually does block out a lot of it, and also provide a little bit of passive exhaust through whatever ventilation is available. Because once I installed the 120mm exhaust fan at the very back, the top panel does cover up a little bit of the fan, therefore it's not really an effective way. But that's where we have an additional magnetic panel that you can install at the top in case you're using that area for either intake or exhaust. And since the mounting locations are offset closer to the side panel, you could mount a 240 rad up here without interfering with your RAM modules. Now the issue here is that the filter is very restrictive for either intake or exhaust. As you'll see in my temperature testing, it's better to leave this thing out because it does actually increase temperatures if you have any exhausting fans at the top. While this thing is actually not doing anything for the noise profile when it's installed, I wish that it would block out a little bit of noise, but it doesn't. If you want a more silent system, that's where the other more solid panel comes into play, and the system is actually quieter. All right, so moving inside, we have two fans included. These are the Pure Wings 2 140mm fans at 900 RPM. Up to ATX motherboards are supported, nothing larger. We have that dual SSD bracket with the Be Quiet in the middle, with the SSDs facing each other, which is kind of cool. While at the back, we have an additional bracket for dual SSDs and some Velcro straps to help with cable management and plenty of cable ties. Thank you. Now, the SSD bracket beside the motherboard can be removed, so you can mount your drives outside of the enclosure. Plus, it helps with cable management when that whole area is completely open. Although I did find it to be a little bit tight when I was mounting the bracket back into the enclosure, especially with that USB 3 cable. I also feel like that 90-degree cable exit is a little bit too tight for individually sleeved cables. It would not look pretty, but for regular power supply stuff, I think will be fine. As for the back, everything is pretty straightforward in terms of cable management. You can definitely do a better job than me. Just keep in mind that we do have sound dampening material applied on the panel itself, thus that reduces your total spacing between the motherboard tray and the panel. All right, so as for temperatures, here are our stock results. Look what happens when I open that front panel. So there's a 7-degree difference for the CPU while the GPU stays the same. I then mounted the front fan to the top exhaust, and look what happens. Both our CPU and GPU dropped significantly versus stock configuration. I'm surprised that Be Quiet did not actually ship the system like it, but it's probably because they want to keep the top panel to isolate some of the noise, and this was tested with the front panel on and with the top panel off. And look what happens with our temperatures when we add the top filter. Both the GPU and CPU spike up a little bit, but still gives us a much better result versus stock configuration. As for the temperatures in my case stack, at stock configuration, it's nothing to brag about, but in my front fan to top reconfiguration, it is definitely much cooler than majority of cases in my configuration. Definitely recommend you doing this if you buy the PureBase 500. And as for system noise, I mean, the fans are spinning at 900 RPM, definitely slower than anything in my stack. It is a very quiet enclosure indeed, and you'll definitely increase the noise profile if you do relocate the front fan to the top, but not significantly. The fan is only spinning at 900 RPM anyway. All right, so how do we conclude from here? The PureBase 500 isn't super innovative. It's not like doing anything too drastically different versus everything else in the market. It's just trying to be competitive versus the H510 versus the P400A, the P350X from Fantex, and I don't mind that at all. I really love the new metallic gray color and everything about the assembly procedure, cable management, and the looks of like being a compact tower. It satisfies everything that I would want in the mid tower of this caliber. It is a very quiet enclosure, but they're using lower RPM fans versus the competition, and relocating that front fan definitely improves the temperatures, but does increase the noise profile, not significantly anyway, but it is what I would recommend you do if you do pick one up. I was hoping for a slightly better designed filter for the top. While it looks pretty and it's magnetic, it's just quite restrictive for airflow, and it does not block out the noise anyway, so you might just well keep it off to get better temperatures. This thing does not have a Type-C port, and some of you might say that it does not have any integrated lighting, but I kind of like that. The plain interior with my purple illumination on the inside, really good. If there was one thing to complain about, it would be the price delta between the black, metallic gray, and the white editions. I get that you're paying $10 more for the tempered glass edition, but it feels like the $85 metallic gray with tempered glass edition versus $70 black with a solid panel. I feel like there's that. I feel like it's a bit too much of a price difference when we were competing with like a really competitive $70 market. The Power Color RX 5700 XT Red Devil is a special kind of graphics card with a fantastic cooler, 2 modes available for the user, 10-phase VRM designed to improve stability and OC headroom, and fiery RGB illumination to satisfy. Check it out below. But I would love to hear what you think about this price point and this enclosure in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to check out this other relevant content. Subscribe for more. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.